Well, good morning, everybody. It's really good to be here in Atlanta with you. I've been here on a number of occasions, and it was really so nice to be able to walk in the door and meet people that I have met over the past years. It was almost like coming home. So it's great to be here with all of you today. As Elizabeth said, I come from a pretty varied background. Actually, it ranges from education to the corporate world to entrepreneurship, and then finally having the distinct honor to lead WIP. WIP, while Elizabeth mentioned to you, was a nonpartisan public policy organization, has a very specific focus, and that's to ensure that you, whether you come from the corporate world or are an entrepreneur, not only have a voice, not only are you represented in our nation's capital, but also that you know how to leverage your voice. So the overall umbrella for this conversation is going to be leadership and how you leverage it. But there's also a much bigger conversation, and that is, how do we as a community leverage our leadership? What are our objectives? What's our role? What is our responsibility? And also, what are the gains and what are the risks that we have? For me, leading WIP, the issue is, how can we impact the critical challenges that America is facing today in with our economy, the political process, the issues that are critical to us every single day, such as health, education, technology, energy. We know that the dialogue in Washington is not good, to put it mildly. There's gridlock. There seems to be an abundance of misinformation, intolerance, and unwillingness to listen and to negotiate. And from my perspective, really an unwillingness to develop the strategies to deal with the issues that America has never faced before. I will say outright that there are no clear answers to our issues. There's no right and there's no wrong. We've never been in this type of situation before, but we're going to have to come together. Our leadership in this country is going to have to come together with strategies. And some of them are going to work. Some of them we're going to have to course correct on. But it's going to be a difficult and it's going to be an iterative process. So how do we change the conversation in Washington? I think you're the key component to this. So let me speak first from an entrepreneurial perspective. We know that entrepreneurs are a vital piece of the economic solution. They're the catalyst for adding the jobs and building innovation. And I'm not going to bore you with the statistics. I know that I always hate it as a woman business owner when people up there talk to me about the statistics that I know I live and I breathe every single day. We know we make an impact. We just want the tools and the resources to do what we do best. Turn us loose, and we're going to fix the economy. When I co-founded WIP 10 years ago, I had some very specific goals for the organization. One is that we would be an expert on the issues. We would really know the issues cold. Second, that one of our roles was to educate the administration, Congress, and agency officials specifically on the issues that impact the growth of women-owned businesses and small businesses. And we wanted to be a resource for them, a resource for not only the facts and how the issues impact business growth, but also we wanted to be able to come there and to them with solutions. 3, We wanted to be a resource for women business owners on the issues and opportunities for them to, that are available for them to grow their businesses. And fourth, and I think in some respects this is probably the most important one, is we wanted to be able to bring business owners and the organizations that represent them together so that our united voice would be strong, respected, compelling, and impossible to ignore. We knew right away if we were going to succeed in those objectives that the first thing we had to do was hire a professional team in Washington. This is not a volunteer effort. Volunteer work is very well intentioned, but if we were going to make an impact in Washington, if we were going to make a difference, if we were going to be not only at the table, but we were going to be with the decision makers making the decision, we were going to know what the issues were called, and we were going to be well represented. So our intent was to not only be your voice in the nation's capital, but also to facilitate your voice, your strength, and your leadership. 10 years ago, women-owned businesses identified their inability to gain access to government contracts, the rising costs of health care, access to capital as the top priorities for them. We worked long and hard on these issues. We have many victories and still much, much more to accomplish there. Unfortunately, the issues are still there with us. We've made progress. We haven't resolved them. So our goal is to change the conversation, and my belief is that the key is advocacy, and it's your leadership, and it's how we leverage your voice. Now, the fact is, all of us are advocates. That's no secret for us as women. We advocate every day for our families, for issues that are important for us. I happen to have a grandson that's severely impacted by autism, and I advocate for him every single day. Maybe you have a mother or a friend or a sister with breast cancer, and you advocate for research or perhaps advocate medically for them. So advocacy, I believe, is ingrained in each one of us. We're passionate about the issues that we choose to fight for, and we fight hard for the issues that we care about. But I present to you that there are additional issues that you have to put in your range of sight, that you need to advocate for. They're more complicated, though. And for most of us, and this included me, we're a little bit out of our league on it, not so comfortable, or in a situation or an environment that's difficult or strange for us. So how do you use your leadership skills to help you navigate in this territory? And in fact, why should you? Well, from a purely selfish point of view, advocacy will certainly bring you visibility and help you grow your business. From a community standpoint, if we learn to collaborate and work together, if we learn as women that we do not have to agree on every single issue in order to work together, if we learn that we need to help each other succeed, we will all succeed. If we learn to think first, build our support, and build our strategy, and if we learn that each issue does not have to be our own unique issue in order to advocate for it, then we're going to grow. Then we'll be powerful. Then we'll make advances in the entrepreneurial and in the corporate world. So let's talk a little bit about advocacy. I want to give you an example of an issue and how we played it and how we fought for it in Washington 10 years ago. And that's in federal procurement. Now, I know that there are probably not a lot of you that here that are into federal procurement. Maybe you don't even want to get into it. But it's a really good model to describe to you what it means, what it can mean for a community and what it can mean for you. 10 years ago, when I founded WIP, we began taking action on our ability or on the inability of women to get beyond around 3% of federal contracting dollars. Now, when you understand and know that every percentage is worth $6 billion for small business owners or for women-owned business, that's a pretty significant piece of the pie. That's a lot of money on the table. That means a significant amount of growth to you. It means your ability to not only grow your business, but to add jobs and to positively impact your community. There was a law passed in the year 2000 that set a goal that women business owners should get at least 5% of the federal contracts. And as I said, we were hovered right around 3%, maybe a little bit under 3%. And Terry from the SBA probably could attest to all of that. It was a complicated process. The law passed, and they instructed the SBA to implement it, to make it happen. Well, year after year went by, and nothing happened. Absolutely nothing happened. There was one reason after another why we couldn't set that, what I thought was a ridiculously low goal to begin with. Finally, the SBA commissioned a study by Rand Corporation, and they said, let's see if women business owners are really underrepresented and if we need the goal. The Rand Corporation went to the SBA, they did an analysis, they went to the SBA and they said, into the administration, and they said, well, we have 3 different studies. 2 of them show that women are not underrepresented at all. We're equally represented in every field, and one showed that 87% were underrepresented. And administration said, great, women are not underrepresented except in 3 industries. If you were a kitchen cabinet maker, an engraver, or a reseller of ATV vehicles, then you're underrepresented and a contract should be set aside for you. But before that contract could be set aside for you, the federal agency that's issuing this contract has to prove that in past years they have discriminated against women-owned businesses. Well, that's ridiculous. What agency is going to do that, first of all? And second, with the tens of thousands of women that belong to WIP, I can tell you that we are not fairly, that we are definitely underrepresented in many fields. So it was pretty much of a shock. On December 26, 2007, a ruling came down. That ruling came down that we were not underrepresented, and so the battle began anew. What are we going to do? How are we going to make this work? Well, the only choice we had at that point was a legislative remedy, but that's going to take years. And there's a lot of money on the table, the growth of business, our economy, this is 2008 already, the economy was already beginning to slow down, and federal contracting offers another revenue stream, another opportunity for women-owned businesses. So we certainly put the wheels in motion for a legislative remedy, and then we began to develop partnerships with the public and private sector that would help bring women-owned businesses the tools and the resources that they would need in order to successfully compete for federal contracts. It was a huge, huge effort. We pulled together women, thousands and thousands of women across the country. We put together a comprehensive training program. We got funding. We had legislative initiatives that we followed. We built a grassroots advocacy to support the efforts that I think was a signature achievement for us. And what did we learn from this? What we learned, first of all, was that Congress really listens to us. We won this battle. We won the battle ultimately. Let me just step back for a moment. On February of this year, of 2011, we won the battle, and a new program was put into place that said the 3 industries that were underrepresented are now 83 industries. So it was huge. It was huge. And we have a lot more that has to be, but that's a start. That foolish, ridiculous rule that an agency has to stand up and say with a big placard that brands them and says that they've discriminated, that doesn't have to be anymore. So there was, we won a huge, huge victory over the course of the year, the course of the last few years because of the effort. And what we learned now is that Congress really does, in fact, listen to us, and that women business owners made it happen, from passage of the law to implementation by the SBA. It took us 11 years to make it happen, so persistence was critical to us. WIP and its partners, and many of the partners are here and represented. You all belong to organizations that fought side by side with WIP, WPO, WeBank, NAWBO. All of the fabulous organizations that represent you stood shoulder to shoulder with us. We came together as a community, and we repeated the message that women needed this program to succeed in government contracting, and we repeated it to Congress and to federal agencies and the White House for 11 years. We won because we had a strategy. While passion is required for good advocacy, strategy makes the difference between success and failure. We knew how to play congressional rules to our advantage. Remember, I told you there wasn't anybody that was going to know the facts better than we were. So we played the congressional rules to our advantage. We built our case. We knew when to mobilize, and we knew how to succeed. We put together an economic blueprint, so it was very clear what the legislative issues and priorities of women-owned businesses were. And that blueprint we had presented in 2008 at the Republican convention to Senator McCain and to the Democratic convention to Senator Obama at a program. The primary issue in that economic blueprint was this federal contracting. So we knew how to build that case. And at that time, a result and outcome of our work at the convention was that then Senator Obama came forward and said that should he be elected, one of his first directives to the SBA, the Small Business Administration, would be to rectify this wrong. So we learned also that if we want to make change, if we want to affect change, we have to assemble a huge coalition of supporters. While one or two people can make inroads, a coalition can make change possible. We built that coalition, and thousands of women across the United States spoke out, and we were heard. And women who were in federal contracting or were not in federal contracting spoke out. We found our champions in Congress, and I want to say publicly that it was the women members of Congress that really stepped up. A majority of the women in the House supported the implementation of a good program, and every single woman in the woman senator supported us. And so even though women are not the majority in Congress, they pack a mighty punch. And there were many, many unsung heroes behind the scenes congressional staff that worked with us almost every day to make this happen. And certainly we found our champions in the Small Business Administration under the leadership of Administrator Mills, and then it was in February of that the SBA released a revised program. As I had said earlier on, we found our champions in the private sector. And that very dark moment on December 26 in 2007, as I said, when I got that call that said, "You're sunk. This is not going to happen. We're not going to be able to have a program for you." I went to American Express Open, and they stepped up to the speed. I made my case to them, and they committed completely and wholeheartedly to help educate women business owners on the opportunities that are available to them in federal contracting. We launched Give Me 5, an incredible educational program that provides tools and resources to women-owned businesses. In the past 2 years, we've educated over 250,000 women-owned businesses in webinars and regional events throughout the country. So it was a pretty significant investment in you that they undertook, and that still continues today. And of course, there's no question that we would not have succeeded in this endeavor if it weren't without the leadership of the women's business community. As I mentioned, the leadership of all of the major and the small women business owner organizations came together and stood side by side with us. So the important lesson here is that collaboration makes all of us stronger. And certainly we would not have succeeded if it wouldn't have been for all of you across the country. And everybody helped, whether you were federal contractors or not federal contractors. The point that became very clear is that we all have to support each other, even though it may not be our particular issue. Putting this program together was just the first step. And in some respects, I think it's going to be, the hard work is yet to begun. And that's making sure that contracts actually get in our hands. And also the question to ask is, will we always need a program like this again? Frankly, from my perspective, I don't want to limit us or label us in any way. We are going to lead in a global economy, and we're going to have parity. There is no doubt in my mind. We are going to change the dynamics and help build a strong, resilient, and competitive country. There are many organizations and resources that make this happen. I'm speaking here today not only in my capacity with WIP, but in my capacity as a board member of the National Women's Business Council. The National Women's Business Council, you need to understand, is very important to you. It is a bipartisan council that's created to serve as an independent voice, independent source of advice and counsel to the President, to Congress, and to the United States Small Business Administration on economic issues that are important to you. Members of this council are women business owners like you, leaders in their communities, as well as leaders in the organization. The council brings all of us together, helps us work together as a common body with a common voice. It puts together incredible research, and so it gives us an informed voice. I'd like to just conclude with just a couple of thoughts on getting there is women. Women start career in businesses with the same level of intelligence and education and commitment as men, and yet we haven't quite made it there to the top echelons, and we still struggle for dominance. I gave you what I thought was a very important factor on getting to the top, and that's having a very strong, informed voice. But there's some other points that I think should make a difference to each one of you individually. One is to find meaning. Find your strength and put your strengths to work for you in the service of an inspiring purpose. So if you believe in something, it'll be so much easier for you to work for it and to advocate for it. Its meaning is the motivation that moves us. Manage your energy. Know where your energy comes from, where it goes. There's no such thing as balance, as true balance. That just doesn't happen. What has to happen is that you have to learn to manage your energy flow. You have to learn what works for you, preserve some time and space for you, and set your priorities so you can focus your energies on your strategies, on the important priority strategies. Be positive. Learn to expand your horizons and move ahead even when you have setbacks or when difficult things happen. The framework that you have, how you present yourself to people, your business, in your career or your profession, will make a huge difference. So positive framing is incredible. Fourth, connect, identify, build good, solid networks, identify people who can help you grow and help you build those strong relationships. And last, engage, find your voice, use your voice, belong to organizations that will help you, help your community, help your business, and help your profession. So I want to thank you so much for allowing me to share some of my thoughts with you today. I hope that we have some chance. Do we have a chance for any questions? 5 minutes, if you have any that you'd like to offer. I'd just like to conclude just with one little request from each of you. One of the best and most exciting and newest initiatives, which I just got a chance to publicly announce yesterday, is that WIP is building and leading a coalition, a national coalition, a national movement for Small Business Saturday. You all know that the Thanksgiving weekend is the biggest, heaviest shopping weekend. Well, Friday is Black Friday, Monday is Cyber Monday. We want to make sure on Saturday, between Black Friday and Cyber Monday, that every single consumer, citizen shops in their small business, in their neighborhood. On Saturday, November 26th, we can turn this economy around. We can change what's happening. So we're going to be working on, and I have some information on the table, on building this coalition, building this movement to strengthen your small businesses in your community and strengthen your communities. And strengthen our states. We're looking for people to help us across the country, and if you would like to, I'd love to have you help me. Thank you all very much. It was a pleasure to be here.